People of Earth, what is up? It is I, Gene. Obviously. I am here not talking about socialism for once. Oh my god. I know, your eyes just popped out. Put them back in. I am here to talk about the future and what it might have for us. Actually, the more extreme of the future possibilities. Not, you know, uh, three-wheeled cars. Someone told me that's a new technology. Actually, it's existed since really the late 1800s, but that's irrelevant. I want to talk about stuff that strokes my hedonist ways, and we'll start off with immortality. I find immortality such a fascinating subject. If you haven't read Altered Carbon, I recommend that. It's a very good fiction book. If you like noir, science fiction, either or, get it. But basically, it follows, okay, what if in the future we can download our thoughts? And what if we can clone ourselves as well? Well, we can have a perfect clone of ourselves. And that technically is immortality. Now, obviously, my viewpoint, if a missile comes out from behind me and kills me, my viewpoint right now is gone. This organism right here is dead. But I'm still technically alive. That's fascinating because I can be just pulled out of a lab and my thoughts were downloaded, wirelessly throughout the day. Or what if some strange reason my thoughts were put into a body? I'm still alive though, and there's two of me. Who's technically me? We're both me. We're both Gene. And I guess, guys, watch out. Your wives might use that as an excuse, Might try to train your brother, or whatever you want, your other half. But it's a really fascinating idea. Now, I think that's a little far-fetched. I mean, we're still trying to debate over quantum computers and whether that will make sense. But it seems practical, and there's a lot of analogies between the mind and the computer. Obviously, they're not as similar as some would think, but you can draw a comparison reasonably well. Another immortality thing that's more realistic, that might be actually within 10 to 20 years, when I'm still handsome. I'll always be handsome. I'll be 95 and handsome. But there's going to be, they actually addressed why there probably is aging, why we die naturally, why cancer occurs, some cancers. And that is because cell replication. And basically think of your DNA as a film strip. And the ends of the film strip are basically what keeps all the DNA intact, like a film strip. And now imagine that you have a letter, okay? Well, you have a perfect letter. And, MLA format, your teacher's happy. And you're going to scan it, or you're going to copy it. Well, as you start copying it, it loses its edge, there's more blurriness and the white spaces go out, they start to get shrink. That is basically the edge of our DNA. Now I have the scientific name here, but basically telomere, I believe it's what it's called. And oh, I lost you. Where are you? Okay, there you go. But basically, as our DNA replicates, it starts to lose, its strength, its white spaces, and they figured out, well, we can do stuff with these enzymes that will keep it more intact. They tried it on cancerous mice, and it worked. And this is fascinating, and it gives us an opportunity to think about, well, what would happen if we could make ourselves immortal? They're saying, some scientists are claiming that within 10 years we'll be able to prolong our life. It might not be immortal, but we can prolong our life to 150 years as a minimum. And then from there, we can just go off, and 500 years is the projected after that. And who knows after that? It's amazing. I thought I heard something. But oh well. Anyway, sorry for that. But this brings up questions about Well, what about sexuality? Or I guess homosexuals will be looked up to then because they're not contributing to a huge population boom. But what about sexuality? And I, that's a curious question. I think maybe people would respond with no kids. Maybe it wouldn't bring back your genetic material. I don't know what stops women from, well, obviously, menopause, but we'll have to answer that question. That's a question better left to when it's more practical. And apparently, now I'm not saying this is going to occur, but there are acclaimed scientists who asserted that in 5-10 years we'll see something like that start to make its way into the market, and that's fascinating. And I'm really glad I can live in a time where even that's a possibility. I'm just amazed by science. I hate math though, so I can't be a scientist. I mean, I love how math works. I'm fascinated by math. Don't get me wrong, but I put a pencil in my hand. I'm like 2 + 2. Oh crap! What is that? 7? So I'll stick with history. And then there's a possibility of, what about downloading stuff in our heads? We can download ideas, we can download information. Education would be pointless. You can download everything. That'd be sweet. But then we'd all be maniacs, geniuses. And another futurist topic was automation. Communists talk about this. What if the economy could be automated? The nanotechnology, obviously, first generations isn't going to be contributing too much. But from that, we can program nanotechnology to do what we want. We're already experimenting with it, and we think of simple machines that can already be performed. But what if labor becomes free? What does that leave us? That leaves us to have to think about the economy in a completely different way. Because labor is probably one of the most vital organs to the entire economy that exists right now. And robots, androids, we're going to have to probably, I think, eventually address the fact that some androids are going to be sentient, whatever you want to put that T. And, I think that's a reasonable prediction. Not in the near future, but in the future, we're going to have to address that. And then Jurassic Park, that could be a very realistic approach. I'm basically throwing out right now all these ideas of the future. Then I want you to discuss some with me on the post when I'm done. But the 3D printers, or a lot of people know about those, where basically you can print off a model from a 3D model. And they're saying that eventually you're going to have a whole closet that'll be devoted to a printer, and you can print off almost anything that'll fit out of that closet. That's a fascinating topic. And the last one, which is really has its uses and has its very peculiar uses, is virtual reality. And that's probably the most relevant one of them all. That's the one that's probably more capable of coming out within 5 to 10 years. That's the future of the video game industry, I believe. But with the video game industry also, you'll see that if you have virtual reality, and they're talking about how nowadays, you can control the mouse and you can control your computer just by thinking. That's a reality these days. And then and now we're talking about, okay, now we can get sensories. We can make you smell, and we can connect it to your mind, and we can make you think stuff is happening. Well, eventually you're going to come to the point where you can become God, basically, in your own world. And you can create your own world. We have RPG makers and all that, and obviously RPG makers crap, but I'm talking about more 3D models. You can create your own world, and what does this do for certain people, like sexual abuse? Abusers of sex, can't they just go online then? And then it brings up that question, well, what if they get those sensory details, they can create their own world. If you like a fantasy world, you can create dragons or whatever. You just have to make sure it doesn't go too far, because your brain fries because it's too realistic. And then you have to make sure that every 5 hours or so there's a light or something that goes off and that tells you, okay, it's time to eat, time to get off and eat. And it doesn't get off until you turn that off. But it's a fascinating subject, and I think virtual reality has a lot of problems with it sometimes, but it has a lot of possibilities. Just imagine, you can create your own world. If you don't like the world, I mean, if we live in an automated society and you're still hating the world, you still hate people, you're going to live forever, why not? It's very interesting. All this stuff about science is very interesting. I love futurism. Such a fascinating philosophical approach. If you have any comments, any cool stuff, please send it to me. I am really interested in this. All right, see ya.